2 of the teenie training. Today we will focus on safety and other topics that relate directly to your personal health and safety and that of your co-workers. My name is Jim Kane. I'll be your instructor for today. Before beginning, we'll conduct a standard meeting opening with includes a job safety briefing. There are 2 exits in case of an emergency. I will you'll exit preferably that one. In case that one's blocked, then exit this one. Then just follow the signs leading outdoors. I will be the one who will call 911. In case something should happen to me, I need a volunteer to call. Okay, Sharon will take over that duty then. Anyone here trained in CPR?
I am.
Rick is? And Mike?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought I said 2. We've got 2, good. Right, before we begin the meeting, I want to discuss personal safety equipment, preferably, specifically safety eyeglasses. I know this is a big concern with a lot of employees, and I want to share a couple of experiences that I had involving use and non-use of safety glasses. When I was in Syracuse at LCP Chemical, we had a conductor that was working at night. It was raining. It was like a mist rain. And he was looking up at the top of the tank car to see if it was disconnected. Well, the next thing you know, his eyes were on fire. He did not have safety glasses on. They were burning. Fortunately, the brakeman was close enough by, grabbed him, was able to flush his eyes out, and we got him over to the emergency room right away, and the doctor said it would have been maybe 10-15 minutes longer if he would have completely lost his vision. Now at Niagara Falls, we had another incident when we were weighing. The employee did have safety glasses on. The product was sodium hydroxide, and the rupture disc let go. And before he knew it, he looked up, saw it, and it came down and sprayed him in the face. Fortunately, we brought him over to the eye wash, washed his eyes out, took him to the emergency room. The doctor said he was lucky he had his glasses on, and you could see the burns all the way around his face except for where his glasses were, and his glasses were discolored. So that, to me, even though there's a lot of negative things about the safety eyeglasses, that to me it could have probably saved that person's life, or eyesight, and if it just saves one person's eyesight, to me that's well worth it. All right, I've already introduced myself, so we'll take time out and we'll go around the room. Start with you.
Rick Knaack, conductor of Selkirk for 22 years.
Okay.
Mike MacDonald, engineer in Syracuse for 27 years.
Morning, Mr. Kane. I'm Michael Peterson, as you know, General Manager of the Albany Division, and I want to say thank you for inviting me to come in and sit on part of your class, and if I can be of some help to you, please call on me.
Sure. You're welcome, no problem. Well, to begin the meeting off, we're going to review the 10 critical safety rules that Mr. Conway set out to all supervisors in his letter. Start with, everyone get out their rule books. All right. You can mark them in your book, underline them. If not, just put a little asterisk next to the rule numbers. First one is attempting work that will interfere with safe passage of the train. Any comments on this?
Yeah, the other day I was coming down by 285 and there was a contractor out there. They were painting the underside of the bridge, and we almost hit him. Why are these private contractors allowed to go out and work on a railroad without a flag?
They're not supposed to be following the equipment or anything. A lot of times they go off and do it on their own. They tell us they're going to do one thing and they do something else. So the only time we know is when they're reported following
a real close call. He was in a bucket right up over track 2, and I was on track 2.
Did you notify the dispatcher?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, should have been your first priority, notify the dispatcher, which would save maybe another incident coming down. I know myself, I've caught them out there. Sometimes they're saying they're just inspecting the bridges. They don't let anybody know that they're out there. So that's the only time we can find out is when the employees tell us or we see it. Participating in scuffling, practical jokes, or horseplay while on duty. Any comments?
We have a lot of people in the office who throw paper clips around trying to get people's attention. How do you think we can put a stop to that? I would say that's a practical joke, right?
Yes. I would go up to an employee and say, first of all, how would you feel if you accidentally hit the person in the eye and injured them or put their eye out? I didn't know if I want to relate a personal story that happened to a great uncle of mine. That he worked in a welding shop, and they're fooling around with air, and they thought it was funny that they put the air up his rear end, and they thought it was a funny joke. It ended up it blew his intestines out, and it destroyed him for the rest of his life. He had to live with that for the rest of his life. So some jokes can be, even though it didn't kill him, it destroyed him. So things aren't funny. Making adjustments to moving equipment, following, going between, or understanding equipment without proper protection.
Proper protection here, that's 3-step protection?
Right.
I got a little problem because I've had some people say that, you have to say 3-step protection. I've had other people tell me that you can use a hand signal, or you can do whatever you want to do as long as you and the engineer have a total understanding of what it means. Like if you make a hook and you tell the engineer, unit 6700, the hook is good, stand hard, and the engineer knows that we're working together, and he knows when I tell him to stand hard, that means 3-step protection. I mean, I've heard too many different things. I'm kind of confused myself.
That's the problem. There's too much confusion. It's better to have one set of instructions, 3-step protection, then no one's confused, and then you both have an understanding of what's going on. Even with the hand signals, I don't like it because it's not an absolute understanding. These 3-step protection, when you say it and you get a response, there's an absolute response there.
Jen, I've only been here about 2 months, and out in the yard I hear a lot of people saying 3-point protection. Is that the same thing as 3-step protection?
I think their intent is 3-step. They should be saying the 3-step, and they should be corrected for that. But that's what their intent is, the 3-step protection.
Okay, so it's the same thing, even though we should use the terminology 3-step.
Proper terminology. Right.
Okay, thanks.
Crossing over or between moving equipment. We all understand the dangers of that. Anything could happen. A sudden stop. If you get dizzy and pass out, there's no place to go but in the gauge of the track. It's just a deadly maneuver, and we've already lost people over it. It's just something that cannot be tolerated.
Can I tell you a little story? I used to work up on the hump here in Selkirk, and this is like right after I hired out, and everybody was young and foolish. When we were humping cars, if you couldn't get the pin on one side, it was standard practice to jump through the equipment and get the pin on the other side while it was still moving, and then as soon as the car cut away and you had enough room, you didn't stop to shove, you cross back around and get the next one. A lot of people did that, and now after time has gone by, and I've got kids of my own, I can't believe we did that stuff.
Right.
It's ridiculous.
Right, exactly. Undertaking any act that defeats the purpose of safety device primarily the dead man. That's a prime example. I believe we all understand the reasoning behind that. I know that I wouldn't want to be riding alongside, I wouldn't want to be sitting next to an engineer if I knew that he took out the dead man and then I had no idea that something happened to him and the train was running wild. Failing to look both ways to take proper care before crossing or following crossing the track within 15 feet from standing equipment. When I first started off at the railroad, it was back in DeWitt Yard. It was at night. And fortunately, it was drilled in my head in Trainmaster School to look both ways. So I was doing it, but I was just doing it out of reaction, I guess, or whatever. But then I looked, and it was really dark out, and I thought I saw something coming out of the side of my eye. And I stopped and looked again, and here it was an empty fare table. I couldn't even hear it. And the thing is, it scared me at that point, and I realized how important it is to look both directions, because you don't know when something's coming. Something that's obvious, and that I didn't realize how quiet those things were until that night. I'm sure some of you might have had the same experience. Anybody want to relay anything?
We have a lot of stories.
Yeah. It's following the track or walking in the gauge of the track is really a deadly place to be.
Listen, it's foggy.
Yeah.
Well, if there aren't any other questions, we'll close and take a 10-minute break.
Thank you. I pay attention to.
Okay.
All right. At this next module will be identifying personal risks. It will last about 1 hour and 15 minutes. And then after that we'll take a brief break. The purpose of this module is to identify various personal risks that might pose themselves on the railroad and cause injury and disease to yourself and to others. We're going to show a video about grade crossing incidents. Then we'll have our brainstorming session afterwards, which hopefully everyone will be able to participate in. I'm not going to force you, but everyone sees everything from a different angle, and everyone has a good idea and input, so I'd like to have everybody be involved in this if possible. It is important to know that we are using this grade crossing video to practice how to identify risks. You could just as easily use another video that had personal injuries with trespassers or yourself or whatever. But the basic concepts apply across the board. Also, this is not a new video, so you'll notice in there practices that were okay in the past, they are not okay now. So if you notice anything in there, jot it down, and we'll discuss that after the video. Now I'll show you a Conrail video making the grade. The video will take about 8 minutes. Write down some of the risks you see: safety, health, environment, hazmat, and any others. All right, here's the video. All right, after viewing the video, I wanted to point out something that the crew did right after the incident or accident. They used the words emergency, 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 which is something very important to the lives of everyone on board the train and to passing trains. We just had that one incident you're all aware of, out west. The importance of emergency, emergency, emergency in grade crossing accident you don't know what where the car is going to end up, or the debris from the accident is going to end up. It could be following the other track, and another passing train will come by, and if you don't give them that warning, they won't be aware of it, and it'll just cause another accident, and maybe personal injury to the crew on board that oncoming train, or to possibly to yourself. So that's very important. Right, right now I'd like to go around the room and get your risks that you saw in the movie. Okay, starting with you, Rick.
Well, right away I saw no eyewear, no safety glasses.
Yeah, that was a good point, yes.
But I have a question about that.
All right.
You have, I'm up on the engine, nice wide body, air conditioning, whatever. Why should I have to wear safety glasses?
Because first of all, it's Conrail rule. Second of all, suppose you open up the window and you weren't thinking, and you have the glass on, something could come into the cab and then get into your eyes. Or you could have the window open and kids could be along the right of way and throwing stones, which occurs quite a bit. And you get that, it could hit you and strike you in the eye. I knew of a conductor that actually got hit right in the temple, and he wasn't wearing eyewear at the time. It wasn't required. Could have been just a little bit lower. He could have put his eye out. So you're never really safe. The problem is you might be safe at that point with everything closed in, but are you going to remember to put your eyewear on when you open the window or when you leave the engine? I doubt it.
Yeah.
Sharon?
There's a risk of debris from the incident fouling track.
Yes, very good point. That brings in that emergency too. That's that debris following the track that could cause another derailment. That's good, very good point. Any others?
Well, I saw the conductor or whatever reach in and try to help the person that was in the automobile, and there was blood all over the place. There's risk of disease, blood disease, whatever, contact with that blood.
Right. Yes, in today's society, you have to be careful reaching in and helping a victim in a car accident. Not only you could pick up a disease transmitted from that person to yourself, also there's also the liability factor. Should you be reaching in there and say they had a neck or back injury and you grabbed them and did something, you could cause more injury to that person and as well jeopardizing your own safety.
How about the risk of stress?
Yes, that's a very good point.
I know a couple of engineers who have struck a vehicle, or a vehicle struck them, or a motorcycle, and they were off for a long time for psychological reasons. When they went to sleep at night, all they could relive was the vision of striking the vehicle, and they felt helpless. They wanted to help the individual, and they couldn't.
Right.
So there's a lot of stress.
That's exactly.
Don't we have somebody on Conrail that could help these people out?
Yes. Well, we still have that employee counseling that's in touch with them, and also I know I'm not sure how many employees are with HMOs, but HMOs do have counseling.
I was talking with a union rep the other day, and I know the Albany division has been granted permission from our general manager and superintendent to set up a team through our employee counselor, who by the way is Bill Nauer on 6330. And they contact the individual immediately following an incident like that, and if necessary, get them into a program.
Oh, really? They do that on the, when they know there's a grade crossing accident or something like that? They do that?
Yeah, if an engineer has been involved in striking a vehicle on a crossing or even hitting a trespasser, our employee counselor and a group contact that person and they talk to them right away. And if they feel that the employee needs additional counseling, our employee counselor will arrange for that. And I don't know if anyone here knows Charlie Otten. Does anybody know Charlie Otten?
I know Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie's part of that team.
Not is, huh?
Yeah, yeah. It's just in case if it ever happens to you, he's a good resource to contact.
Any other?
Yeah, hazmat. I mean, the trains that we have out on the road carry a lot of hazardous materials, or could be possibly the vehicle that we strike.
That's true. You never know. You train could have derailed after you struck the car, and something could have happened back there. You're not sure. That's why it's good to know what kind of hazardous material you're carrying, and be prepared for the worst.
That's another thing. When are they ever going to get these wheel reports straightened out? I never know where my hazardous materials are in my train.
I don't understand that. As far as I know, that when you leave the terminal, you get that printout. It has every location where your cars are at. Should have everything, all the hazardous material information, their locations. You sign your CT-168. So, what kind of problem do you have?
Well, a lot of times they're wrong. You know, maybe they get extra cars in your train. The cars aren't, you know, they might, whoever puts the trains together, they put a block in the wrong spot, and you think a hazardous car is 20 deep and it's 60 deep or something like that. I understand they have AEI scanners,
Right.
but the problem is, I mean, if they scan a train and they find out something's wrong, why can't they contact somebody and let us know? And they could get us on the radio and say, hey, update your 168 or something like that.
Right. It's a good point. And I agree. The one good thing about the AEI, I know that we do have clerks. We run keep trains out of Niagara Falls all the time. And once in a while, there is a car that gets misplaced. Now, we've never had blocked cars. It's generally maybe one car will be in there, or there could be a flipping. And then the clerk finds that out when it goes by the scanner, which is a few miles outside the yard. And we do automatically get a new printout generated. And then say if there was a problem with that train, I would have that same printout. I would be out there too.
Then you could contact the crew or
Right.
whatever.
Right. That's a good point, though. Sharon?
The risk of myself getting injured. I could be out there trying to repair a car or repair some track, and I could pull my back out or pull a muscle. Or I could even get hurt myself if I was trying to assist another injured person. So I have injury to myself because of the clearing or repairing of the equipment, as well as a possibility of getting injured myself assisting someone who is injured.
That's a very good point. You have to be aware of all those kind of risks. Also, you could be injured by passing motorists that are watching the wreck and not paying attention to what they're doing.
Rubberneckers, huh?
Rubberneckers,
Yeah,
right.
we see a lot of them.
Isn't that kind of two different, I don't know, well, that's fine.
Anything else?
No, I don't know if you got into it, but you know how things are during cleanups. you know, the risk of getting hurt during cleanup. You get fire companies or whatever out there, you know, our own wrecking people.
That's true. It's very important, and it'd be an excellent idea that you put your use a three-step protection if you know that there's going to be anybody fouling or doing anything with the train. Get the three-step protection from the engineer and protect the train until you know that everybody's clear of it. It's okay to go.
I'm going to tell supervisors that when they show up on the scene, they climb all over the equipment.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I have to wear my safety glasses every day, but sometimes I see supervisors out there, and they don't have to wear theirs. Which brings up a point. Why? How come? Who can tell me that that's fair?
They are required to wear their safety glasses, and on a wreck site, they should have hard hats. So that you're right. If the supervisor's out there without his safety glasses on, then point it out to them. Don't be afraid to. I would expect my people to point out to me if I was out there without safety glasses.
Okay, I'm going to do that the next time. Do they get disciplined? Do they get counseled?
I'm sure they will get disciplined.
How about the risk of a liability lawsuit?
That is a very definite risk. You're always in, whenever you're dealing with any kind of an accident, no matter whose fault it is, you're always subject to be brought in for into court. That's why it's you got to be very careful about what you do with the injured party. You don't want to do anything to damage them or in any way. It's a personal choice at that point whether their life is in extreme danger, whether you do something or not. That's something that an individual would have to live with for the rest of their lives. I could not sit here and tell you what to do. I could never second guess. Every situation is different. As far as when the liability issue also brings into point when the police officers arrive on the scene, you're only going to want to tell them just the information that they asked for. Do not volunteer anything. Don't guess or assume anything, because it'll turn out that it'll haunt you. And any more discussions? Any more questions? Thank you.
That was a quick